Now, back to Amari and Tank. I'm a little bit nervous. I think that's fair to say. When you get a little back surgery on Tank, he's not able to play. Everybody's looking at him. Broadus, all these guys are out in Oxnard going, yeah, he looks a little bit thin, like his back's been messed up, and he probably hasn't been able to work out or do much like that. So he is just not looking like the Tank of old from a physical standpoint, which he's still got a month to sort of get healthy and get his body right and ready for week one. I'm not nervous about these guys playing week one, but I just wonder, is it going to be a year where we're constantly talking about, Amari being questionable or Tank being questionable going into games? Yeah, I would like to get the report from you right now that they're both 100% and they're going to be practicing today.
So initially when I heard about the weight loss for Tank, I thought you asked a really good question to Broadus in terms of, is that just due to the fact that he hasn't been able to lift weights? Maybe that's just a little bit of muscle weight due to the back surgery. He hasn't been able to get into the weight room, and just naturally he's thinned out a little bit. But it seems as though this is something that the Cowboys as an entire team have focused on this offseason. All the reports, and if you've been able to watch any of the clips from Oxnard, this is a slimmed down team. It seems like this team has just made a conscious effort. They've wanted to drop some LBs. They want to be lighter. They want to be faster. And I think for Tank, he falls in line with that, which makes me a little bit less concerned about the weight loss for him.
Yeah, I don't think La'el Collins has put his shirt back on in at least like 3 weeks. Every time I see a photo of La'el Collins, it's shirtless. And honestly, for Tyron Smith as well. And kudos to them because they look fantastic. We know about the Zeke stuff. And you might be onto something there. It might have just been sort of an overarching theme for a lot of the veterans on that team. Hey, like if we're gonna be able to extend our career, I mean that's what I think it was Jerry Rice who did that, where it was like every year after like the first few years in the league, he basically intentionally would want to show up to camp somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2 or 3 pounds lighter than the previous year.
Just running that hill, right?
Just to do it, because like as you age, as the age goes up, you want the scale to sort of go down a little bit. So maybe that's what it is.
Well, and it's certainly a guy who also gets criticized a ton for the sack totals, and maybe him being a little bit faster, having a little bit more of a bend and a little bit more quickness and burst off the edge could benefit him to get those sack totals back up to where he wants them to be, and the fan base wants it to be. Certainly, that's the knock on Tank. He does everything else very, very well in terms of being one of the best edge setters, run defenders in the NFL. But it's all about the sack numbers for a lot of people, especially when you're getting paid the amount of money that Tank Lawrence is at that defensive end position.
Yeah, and if that helps him do that, then wonderful. And we know this Dan Quinn scheme, something that I feel like we've learned that I want to talk to Broadus about later on in the show when he jumps on with us, but it does feel like this Dan Quinn scheme is a little bit more multiple than I was sort of at least giving credit for based on what we knew about Dan Quinn coming in. You think about the Legion of Boom Seahawks days and stuff like that, where it's like, hey, it's four down linemen, 2 or 3 linebackers given the situation, and then you're running cover 3 seemingly every time. And it feels like that's not necessarily going to be the case. So maybe Demarcus Lawrence is also thinking to himself, hey, at times I'm going to be maybe standing up a little bit on the edge, and we're going to do some odd fronts instead of always just doing the even fronts, that sort of thing. So, yeah, we'll see. Ultimately, it comes down to the health. Like I as long as he is physically able and healthy, then I still expect Demarcus Lawrence to have a really, really good season.
Without Dak Prescott practicing due to the shoulder soreness, which for me has not been of any concern. When these reports came out, I was a little bit surprised at the level of, oh my goodness, freak out that kind of seemed like Twitter went about this. If there's no structural damage for me, I think you hear about this pretty regularly when it comes to quarterbacks in training camp, right? You have a little bit of arm fatigue. You have a little bit of soreness there with the amount of throws that they're having. I think Tony Romo dealt with this. I think you have quarterbacks that deal with this in camp, and they end up, sitting out a couple of practices, whatever it might be. I don't think this is going to be an issue for Dak. I'm personally not worried about it.